About pollster and communication strategist Frank Luntz just held a focus group. Watch this.
How many of you were supporting Joe Biden 14 days ago? Raise your hands. None of you. How many of you, if the election were held today, would vote for the Democratic nominee, Kamala Harris?
I would.
Okay, that's all of you.
None of you to all of you. And Frank Luntz is with us now. Frank, so thank you so much for being with us. Let me just ask you, if the election were held today, who would win?
She would win. And I want to emphasize, it's not just about momentum. And I thought your commentary just before this was dead on. It's also about passion. It's about commitment. And Harris voters are even more eager to vote for her than Donald Trump voters are to him. We've not seen that in an entire campaign. Call that intensity. And her campaign is generating the intensity. And another key component is exactly why this is happening.
Did you folks just see what I saw? Every single person in that Zoom group call with Republican pollster Frank Luntz changed their mind. They didn't raise their hand when they were asked about President Biden, and then when they were asked about VP Harris, they did raise their hand, and this is indicative of a large shift that we've seen among independent voters in America. Of course, one Zoom call with 20 people doesn't mean the entire country has changed their minds, but when we see this repeated pattern in polling over and over, that is when we know we have a trend as opposed to just an outlier. This reads, Harris versus Trump. New poll shows massive shift for independent voters. And I have more to play of that Frank Luntz CNN interview because it gets more interesting, but I want to add some context and lay the groundwork because over the past week, Donald Trump has been losing his mind, saying that VP Harris is AI generating crowd sizes, attacking her race and talking about unskewing polls. Meanwhile, VP Harris has been cruising, doing fine. A mayor's poll out Tuesday showed a seismic shift in support from independent voters from former President Donald Trump to Vice President Kamala Harris. And I do want to say independent voters will likely decide this election because this election will probably be won at the margins in a few key swing states. The last few elections have been incredibly close, states like Georgia being won by 11,000 votes. So yeah, independent voters will play a massive role. Independent voters, who often play an outsized role in presidential contests given the deeply partisan split of the country, went for Harris by a margin of 53% to 44%, a 9% lead. Honestly, in an ideal world, that margin would be more like 40 to 50%, and in a perfect world, Donald Trump wouldn't even be competitive at all. He'd be polling at about 1%, but we live in this reality where the convicted felon is somehow very competitive with the accomplished DA, AG, senator, vice president. But I will say this is a major improvement over where we were a few weeks ago. In a poll released by the exact same poster on July 23rd, 2 weeks earlier, Trump led independents by 14%. Quote, Democrats have renewed enthusiasm and confidence with Harris at the top of the ticket, and the new matchup has ignited interest in the contest on both sides. And I think that was demonstrated perfectly by the Frank Luntz video I played at the beginning of the video. Let's play some more. Make sure you leave a like and take a look.
She's talking and emphasizing her persona, her attributes, her character traits. And that's where Donald Trump has been commenting. And the fact is, the American people do not want to hear the same kind of negativity, the same kind of attacks that he's been delivering. His strength is on issues, most particularly the two issues that matter most, inflation and immigration. But instead of speaking about those two issues and talking about the failures of the Biden administration, he's been making these personal attacks, and it's frankly turning the voters off that he needs to reach. Now, I want to emphasize one more thing.
Hang on, Frank. I want to actually break down some of the things you just said there into pieces. And before we get that, though, again, if the election were held today, you say that Harris would win. If the election were held 4 weeks ago, who would win? Who would have won?
Donald Trump would have won, and I was very careful when I said it. And the reason why, threefold. Number one, he's winning those 3 states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Number two, he had the intensity, so he'd have done actually 1% better than his polling showed. And number three, frankly, he was on the issues that people cared about.
Let's talk about the Harris side for a second, because you talk about the excitement and enthusiasm. One of the things that she and her running mate are leaning into is this idea of joy. How does joy rate in your focus groups? Is there anything you can see where that's having an impact?
It's not joy. It's the absence of meanness. And I want to be specific about this. It's not that she's so energetic and so, which is part of it. The people in the focus groups appreciate that. It's that they've stopped appreciating the same kind of attacks again and again, year after year, that Donald Trump delivers. Frankly, and now let me upset everyone here.
After the assassination attempt, Republicans and MAGA politicians and influencers tried to gaslight us, the liberals, people on the left, into thinking that we were the divisive ones who use a divisive rhetoric when that is not the case whatsoever. And the American people are getting sick of the divisive rhetoric. Tim Walz says it best. He says, you get sick of going and eating at Thanksgiving dinner and your crazy uncle is always getting in an argument with you. That is very true. Everybody is divided. Politics is now more about nicknames and policy, and that is thanks to Donald Trump and nobody else. So when Frank Lutz says that voters are sick of the nicknames, sick of the meanness, sick of the drama, they're talking about Donald Trump. They are sick of Donald Trump. To continue watching.
It's not that she's winning this campaign, it's that Donald Trump is losing the campaign. And I'm starting to wonder, how does he not see this? How does he not see the polling decline that he's had? How did he not read and understand that people were fed up with a 93-minute convention speech that was really great for the first 30 minutes and got really awful at the end? We are different people than we were when he was first elected. We are a different country in 2024 than we were in 2016. And I don't think that he understands it. Last point, I don't think it's his campaign, because I see the stuff that they put out. I think it's actually the candidate that's responsible for this.
Look, at all the reporting over the last 3 days has seemed to indicate that the leaks, the likes of which we've seen, generally speaking, are to send the candidate a message. You've got to see this. You've got to see the problem you're in. Ezra Klein, this wasn't an article. This was a column in the New York Times today. He's an opinion writer, but he writes, quote, Biden's communication strategy was designed to make Trump bigger. Harris's strategy is to make him smaller. And then Klein continues, the result is that Trump is starved for the resource he craves most, attention. And as is often the case when he loses control of the headlines, he's making loonier in more self-destructive arguments. How do you feel about that?
I think I never thought I would say this, because Ezra and I have disagreed on a lot. I think he's dead on. But let's talk about the impact on democracy in the end. The key moment here is going to be the debates when Harris and Trump stand side by side and give the alternative points of view. I still think he has a reasonable chance of winning. Oh, sure. Because in the end, the issue agenda favors him, but not if you're so angry that you've stopped reflecting the people you're trying to reach.
Frank Luntz, great to speak with you this morning. Thanks so much for your time, as always.
Amazing news, but remember, enthusiasm isn't enough. Voting is where the magic happens, and beyond voting, you can make sure that your friends and family are registered. Double, triple check, make sure everybody is registered. Make sure that you have rides to the polling booth on November 5th. Make sure you have everything taken care of. Go canvas, door knock, phone bank, so many ways to make sure that we're making progress. But make sure you leave a like on this video, comment a blue heart, hit that subscribe button. Most importantly, have a great day yourself. Peace out.